4 of the most evil demons in the Bible. Number 1. Apollyon. Who is the Apollyon? Apollyon and Abaddon have the same thoughts of destruction or torment, perdition. Abaddon is a demon who works under Satan and is in charge of an abyss full of locusts that will appear on stage during the final days. Because the Old Testament and the New Testament were written in separate languages, the word for destroyer in Greek is different than the word in Hebrew. This is something that we need to keep in mind at all times. Although we only see the instance in the latter half of the Bible in Revelation chapter 9 verse 11, 5 verses in the Old Testament use the word. Abaddon in the Old Testament appears to mean destruction. Job chapter 26 verse 6. Sheol is naked before him, and destruction has no covering. The name Apollyon is the Greek for Abaddon, meaning destroyer. Revelation chapter 9 verse 11. And they had as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek he has the name Apollyon. This shows that the enemy's camp is organized, with the title of king. In the book of Daniel, we meet the prince of Persia, who was also a high-ranking demon. The term king and prince shows connections to a kingdom, clearly showing a kingdom with opposing forces. Revelation is full of graphical language. Through the continued use of symbols, we can visualize what would otherwise be incomprehensible. It cannot be too strongly emphasized that this is intended to help our understanding, not hinder it. So many individuals have used the highly symbolic nature of the book of Revelation to neglect or even dismiss its instruction, as if the symbols are too vague to convey a clear message. That is entirely not the case, as is evident when they are listed in 4 categories. Some are obvious in their meaning. The dragon or serpent is the devil. The lake of fire is hell. The great white throne is the Lord's judgment seat. Some are explained in the context. The stars are angels. The lampstands are churches. The seals, trumpets, and bowls are disasters. To set the context for Revelation chapter 9 verse 11, when Apollyon shows up. In Revelation 8 through 9, John describes a period during the end times when angels sound 7 trumpets. Each trumpet heralds the approach of a fresh judgment that will fall upon the earth's inhabitants. Immediately after the 5th angel blew his trumpet, a star fell from the sky to the earth. This star opened the abyss. Revelation chapter 9 verse 2. Unleashing a battalion of demonic soldiers, likened to a plague of locusts resembling horses prepared for battle. Revelation chapter 9 verse 7. By this time, there had already been hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. 1/3 of the earth was burned up, 1/3 of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Next, something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. This event marks the beginning of the end, during which Satan and the armies under his control will be unleashed. He will be permitted to take those who reject Christ as king during the cleansing of the whole earth, to make way for a new heaven and a new earth. These beings will be granted the authority to inflict unimaginable torment on anyone who does not wear the seal of God. Their pain will be so intense that sufferers will wish to die. Abaddon Apollyon is the ruler of the abyss and the king of these demonic locusts. Since this is the king of locusts, and since he has the name Abaddon or Apollyon, this is a high-ranking leader of demons. The name Abaddon appears in some versions of the Old Testament, such as the English Standard Version and the New American Standard Bible. In the New International Version book, King James Version, and New Living Translation, he appears as destruction. John is making a bold spiritual and political statement in the book of Revelation by referring to both Abaddon Hebrew and Apollyon Greek. Together, the seals, trumpets, and bowls of the end times comprise the great day of God's wrath and serve to judge the Antichrist kingdom of wickedness. The Abaddon Apollyon of Revelation is an actual demon who will one day impose real pain on real people during God's real judgment. Abaddon was a place of the dead in the Old Testament, which is regularly linked with death and the realm of the dead. Psalm chapter 88, verse 11. Shall your loving kindness be declared in the grave, or your faithfulness in the place of destruction? It is linked with a pit in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It is thus equivalent to Hades, the sometimes personified realm of the dead, over which God and Christ have ultimate control. Revelation chapter 1, verse 18. I am he who lives and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And I have the keys of Hades and of death. Here the control is assigned temporarily to an evil angel, who seems to have been imprisoned with the other spirits of the pit. Many suggest that this title also ridicules Apollo, the archer god, one of whose emblems were the locust. This tells us that the goal of the evil one who is the head of the Abaddon is against us. John chapter 10, verse 10. The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly. Number 2. Legion. In the book of Mark, we are told of the story of Legion. In Mark chapter 4, verse 35, Jesus told his disciples they needed to go to the other side of a body of water. He was about to go on a journey that would be spoken about for thousands of years. He was going to meet the demoniac. However, as soon as they set out for the other side, the Bible said a great storm of wind arose, and the waves beat into the sea. Just because you are on a godly mission does not mean that there will not be challenges. However, there was a big breakthrough on the other side. Then they came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gadarenes. And when he had come out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one could bind him, not even with chains, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains. And the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and worshipped him. Jesus knew that multitudes of demons plagued the madman of Gadara. However, when the man began speaking with Jesus, he began to speak with Jesus in the singular person of I. Mark chapter 5, verses 7 through 9. And he cried out with a loud voice and said, What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you by God that you do not torment me. For he said to him, Come out of the man, unclean spirit. Then he asked him, What is your name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. Which question Christ put, not for his own sake, for he was not clueless of his name, nor of the number of the unclean spirits which were in the man, but that it might be known what a pitiful condition this man was in, being plagued and vexed with such an enormous group of devils. At this point, the chief demon in charge of all the demons confessed, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. A legion of demons was equal to 6,000 demons after the order of the Roman army. Some make a legion to consist of 6,666, and others make it much more significant, even 12,500. You can contrast it with the demon in Matthew chapter 12, verses 43 through 45. Now when the unclean spirit was gone out of a man, it roams through waterless, dry, arid places in search of rest, but it does not find it. Then it says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when it arrives, it finds the place unoccupied, swept, and put in order. Then it goes and brings with it 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go in and make their home there. And the last condition of that man becomes worse than the first. So will it also be with this wicked generation. The man in this passage had only 7 other demons with him, and the demon in the demoniac was chief demon among 6,000. The Bible makes us understand that an innumerable company of angels is available to believers to execute different tasks on their behalf. As there is an innumerable company of holy angels to encamp about the saints and do them all the service they can, as appointed to, so there is undoubtedly a numerous company of devils who do all the hurt they can, or are permitted to do, unto the sons of men. Hence, they are expressed by words, which signify number as well as power, as principalities and powers, the rulers of the darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in high places, the power or posse of the air, the angels of Satan, the angels that sinned and left their habitations. Jude 6. And the angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. As also, that they are in a body, and the form of an army, with a general at the head of them, the prince of devils, and king of the bottomless pit. There are whole squadrons and regiments of them, even legions. What a mercy it is for the saints, that besides 12 legions of good angels or more which are ready to assist and protect them, they have God on their side. And therefore it signifies not who is against them, and they have Christ with them, who has spoiled principalities and powers, and greater is the Holy Spirit that is in them than he that is in the world. Matthew chapter 26, verses 53 through 56. Or do you think that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he will provide me with more than 12 legions of angels? How then could the Scriptures be fulfilled that it must happen thus? In that hour, Jesus said to the multitudes, Have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs to take me? I sat daily with you, teaching in the temple, and you did not seize me. But all this was done that the Scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. As 12 legions of angels were on standby to assist and protect Jesus from being crucified, they are also on standby to protect and preserve any believer. The demons begged Jesus not to leave that locality. Casting them out of that locality meant torment for them, because they couldn't function outside that locality. That's why they requested to be sent to the nearby swine in that location. Mark chapter 5, verses 10 through 14. Also he begged him earnestly that he would not send them out of the country. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there near the mountains. So all the demons begged him, saying, Send us to the swine, that we may enter them. And at once Jesus gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. There were about 2,000. And the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea, and drowned in the sea. So those who fed the swine fled, and they told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was that had happened. Demons would instead go into the pigs, then roam without a body. They are spiritual viruses, and most things in the physical have parallels in the spirit. Also, we can see this at play in Matthew chapter 12, verses 43 through 45. We can also see this at play in the book of Daniel. Location is critical in the kingdom of darkness, as we are told of a prince of Persia and a prince of Greece. Most of us are familiar with the famous story of the demoniac of Gadara, but what we don't know are the mysteries surrounding this demonic possession. There are many mysteries about this remarkable man that meets the eye. The demon-possessed man was unique. His case was so bad that he lived on the outskirts of the town. Gadara was a city south of the Sea of Galilee and east of Jordan in a region called Decapolis, an area of 10 cities. The region of Gadara refers to parts outside the city reaching the sea. The madman of Gadara lived in tombs or caves. The Bible also tells us that no one could chain him down. They tried to bind him with different fetters and chains, but he would break them off like a piece of flax. In other words, the devil had blocked this man from fulfilling purpose or being useful on earth. Thank God Jesus located him. If Jesus did not locate him, he wouldn't have been able to become the great evangelist that God ordained him to be, who would eventually preach to 10 cities, Decapolis. And he besought him much. The devil at the head of this legion, who had the rest under his command, he entreated Jesus with great earnestness. This shows Christ's authority over the devils and their subjugation to him. They must quit their former possession when he gives orders. Even though the man they were in could not be bound and held with iron chains and fetters due to the incredible strength they put forth in him, these are bound and held in chains and cannot move without Christ's permission. And though they are such proud spirits, they are very willing to humble themselves and ask a favor, even of him whom they genuinely hate. The devils are unwearied in making mischief. They cannot rest unless they are about it. If they are not permitted to touch the lives of men or ruin their souls, it is some satisfaction to them to be allowed to hurt. And if that is no longer permitted, rather than doing nothing, they are desirous of harming irrational animals, the property of men, all which shows the malice and wickedness of these evil spirits. They were about 2,000, a huge herd, but there were devils enough in that one man to possess all these and run them into the sea. Number 3 and 4, Prince of Persia and the Prince of Greece. The Prince of Persia is only mentioned in Daniel 10, a highly apocalyptic and therefore at least partially symbolic section of the book of Daniel. The Prince of Persia is most likely a reference to a wicked spiritual being who ruled over Persia in ancient times. The prophet Daniel had obtained a troubling vision concerning a great war. He went into 3 weeks of mourning, fasting, and prayer. God sent a heavenly messenger to explain the vision in response to Daniel's prayer. Once again, Daniel was being prepared to receive a vision and prophetic revelation from an angel. This time, it would be a sweeping panorama of a prophecy involving King Cyrus of Persia, and even the establishment of God's kingdom on earth. Daniel knew something awe-inspiring was coming, because he mourned and fasted for 3 weeks beforehand. The angel who appeared to him was dazzling in appearance. The men with Daniel did not see the vision, but a great terror fell on them nonetheless. Meanwhile, Daniel was weakened by holy fear and fell into a deep sleep. Here we are given insight into the warfare that takes place in the spiritual realm. Daniel had been praying and fasting for 3 weeks, and the angel had been sent from the first day in response. However, The angel had been hindered by a figure called the Prince of the Kingdom of Persia, who opposed him for 21 days, for the entire period during which Daniel had been fasting and praying. This was a high-ranking demon assigned to the nation of Persia to represent the devil's kingdom and fight against gods. Scripture frequently says that Satan exercises a level of control and rule in this fallen world. Thus, the messenger who had come to Daniel engaged in angelic warfare. The power of this demonic prince of Persia was so great that Michael, one of the chief princes, was sent to his aid. We learn in Jude 9 that Michael is an archangel. By virtue of his strength, the angel prevailed and reached Daniel. The kingdom of Satan is composed of 4 evil divisions. The first is the fallen angels, or principalities, which serve as Satan's highest-ranking rulers. The second division is the powers, who were given authority to execute the will of the chief rulers. Satan has just one reason for dividing his legions into ranks, and that reason is spiritual warfare. His passion is still fueled by pride, which feeds his insatiable need for total authority. Satan's main goal is to have the world bow down to him and worship him as God. However, there is a better kingdom than Satan's, led by Jesus Christ, who will rule the globe for 1,000 years in perfect peace. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the young goat, the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. Isaiah chapter 11, verse 6. Demons are the foot soldiers of his evil army, controlled and directed by higher-ranking rulers, powers, and principalities. The terms devil, devils, and demons are frequently interchanged. There is only one prince of devils, Satan, but many demons exist. The word demon is derived from the Greek word daimon, which means evil spirit. Satan, the devil, has a heavenly body and cannot physically enter anyone, but he can be in union with man for evil purposes. Luke chapter 22, verse 3. Then Satan entered Judas, the one called Iscariot, who was one of the 12 disciples. On the other hand, demons are evil spirits that operate in the world by possessing the bodies of humans or beasts. Scripture repeatedly says that Satan exercises a level of control and rule in this fallen world. 1 John chapter 5, verse 19. We know for a fact that we are of God, and the whole world around us lies in the power of the evil one, opposing God and his precepts. As a result, the messenger who came to Daniel was engaged in angelic warfare. An angel clarifies how the Jews' final days will unfold in Daniel's final vision. Michael, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, will appear now. The angel also refers to Michael as Daniel's prince. The Bible doesn't say what standing guard entails, but it's clear that Michael has special responsibilities for Israel. In his role as a fighter, Michael has a particular responsibility to Israel. In Daniel chapter 10, verse 21 and Daniel chapter 12, verse 1, he is said to be the prince of that nation. As we read ancient and modern history, we see the hand of Michael defending Israel. The term archangel means highest rank angel. Most biblical angels are depicted as messengers, but Michael is described as contending, fighting, or standing against evil spirits and principalities in all 3 books. Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. Then war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. Though Daniel was overwhelmed with anguish and weakness, the angels strengthened him to receive the revelation that follows in chapters 11 and 12. But there was more angelic struggle ahead. The angel had returned at once to fight against the prince of Persia. Then he told Daniel that the prince of Greece would come. This indicates that Satan's demons are constantly at war against God's kingdom and servants. You must be prepared to wage this warfare that you can't see, the war in the spiritual realm. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 18. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith with which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one. And take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, being watchful to this end with all perseverance and supplication for all the saints. There are battles fought, and things that happen in the spiritual realm that we may know nothing about. But we are taught that our conduct affects what transpires there. That is why we should never give up praying and submitting ourselves to the Lord in obedience. What happens in our lives of faith has implications far more significant than what we can see. So we must stay steadfast and trust the Lord, even when we cannot see what he is doing. The Prince of Greece. We know from history and from Daniel that Greece would be the next world power after Persia, and that Greece would rule Israel for a time. 3 spiritual entities are mentioned in this passage concerning 3 earthly nations: the Prince of Persia, the Prince of Greece, and the Prince of Israel, Michael. As the New Testament reminds us, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. The battle is real. Satan mimics God through counterfeit means, and demonic invasion is no exception. Those who submit to the Lord have a divine personality dwelling in them in the form of the Holy Spirit. Jesus Christ came to earth to deliver the oppressed from the power of demons. Acts chapter 10, verse 38. How God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with power, who went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed by the devil, for God was with him. When believers are liberated, they are transformed by the power of God's Spirit, a supernatural transformation that Satan cannot imitate. Demons have what characteristics? Demons, like their leader, have personalities and goals that define their mission. However, the Bible lets us know certain things about the evil one's kingdom. Number 1. Demons are distinct creatures. Number 2. Demons have self-awareness. Number 3. Demons have beliefs. You believe that there is one God. You do well. Even the demons believe and tremble. James chapter 2, verse 19. Belief in God is not the same as faith in God. Demons believe that God exists. They also believe that Christ rose from the grave, but they do not willingly submit to his will or eagerly put their destiny in his hands. Number 4. Demons have emotions. Number 5. Demons have fellowship. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 19 through 23. What am I trying to say? Am I saying that food offered to idols has some significance or that idols are real gods? No, not at all. I am saying that these sacrifices are offered to demons, not to God. And I don't want you to participate with demons. You cannot drink from the cup of the Lord and from the cup of demons too. You cannot eat at the Lord's table and at the table of demons too. What? Do we dare to rouse the Lord's jealousy? Do you think we are stronger than He is? You say, I am allowed to do anything, but not everything is good for you. You say, I am allowed to do anything, but not everything is beneficial. Number 6. Demons have doctrines. The Spirit clearly says that in later times, some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. Such teachings come through hypocritical liars, whose consciences have been seared as with a hot iron. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 1 through 2. Number 7. Demons have desires. So the demons begged him, Jesus, saying, If you cast us out, permit us to go away into the herd of swine. Matthew chapter 8, verse 31. It is clear and consistent in the Bible that demons exist. They are entities that oppose God's supremacy. They seek to carry out their unholy rebellion by influencing people to live in ways that contradict God's intentions. At the same time, they remain under His control and can be used to carry out the divine plan. Christians must submit to God and resist Satan and his minions' incursions. As a result, we need to understand the fundamental truths of Scripture regarding demons' behavior and their methods of influence. Having become aware of the work of demons, we are commanded to take a stand in Christ and oppose it, whether as individuals, corporations, or societal structures. Demons desire to keep us from God by promoting sin, inducing temptations, tormenting and frightening us. Like their counterparts, a demon's characteristics are spiritual, immutable, and immortal. Demons are not omniscient, and their power is limited to that which God allows. Demons also do not pertain to just one person or one kind, but have various purposes and knowledge in their expertise. Satan mimics God through counterfeit means, and demonic invasion is no exception. Those who submit to the Lord have a divine personality dwelling in them in the form of the Holy Spirit. Satan's evil spirit influences those who are ruled in some area of their life by demons. Jesus Christ came to earth to deliver the oppressed from the power of demons. God's Spirit transforms believers when liberated, a supernatural transformation that Satan cannot imitate.